Game announcements can get us pretty excited, but until the game is in our hands, anything is possible. Cancellations are a way of life, and there are hundreds to choose from if you're planning to count them down. Fixating on these 10, we ranked them by raw, emotional pain. Each of these could have been something special, and while we've learned to let most of these go, they still sting. These aren't on hiatus or stuck in extended development. They're dead and buried. Some cancellations mark the end of a storied franchise, but in the case of Command & Conquer Generals 2, it was also a milestone to the end of real-time strategy's first golden age. This title seemed to have everything going for it. It was a sequel to a highly revered franchise, boasting the power of the shiny new Frostbite 2 engine, and made by developer superstar BioWare. From there, we watched this game change titles, get teased as a browser game, and ultimately get the axe as a free-to-play embarrassment. An undeserved fate for a game with such a pedigree lands Generals 2 on our list. Before Edward Kenway's journey in Assassin's Creed IV Black Flag, Pirates of the Caribbean Armada of the Damned promised players the chance to be a pirate captain on the open seas. A heavy emphasis on player choice was said to determine the type of crew your vessel used, as well as how citizens would react to you in town. Set before the events of the Johnny Depp film franchise, Armada of the Damned was looking stunning on last-gen consoles and had the opportunity to be a meaningful movie tie-in, free from the constraints of the film's plot. Unfortunately, it walked the plank in 2010. Starcraft contains a rich universe with fascinating characters, and while we've enjoyed experiencing it through massive armies, we've also longed for something more personal. Ghost seemed like it would offer just that. It was going to be a third-person action game telling the story of Nova, a Terran agent attempting to uncover a military conspiracy. The thought of sneaking behind enemy lines alone sounds tense in ways that base building and micromanagement just can't capture. Plus, since the Zerg are already disgusting, we saw plenty of potential for a few horror sections, similar to Ravenholm in Half-Life 2. Sadly, Starcraft Ghost is another case of what could have been. First planned for the Super NES, the third title in the Mother series wasn't announced in the West until it had already shifted development to the N64's ill-fated disk drive attachment. Earthbound 64 was one of the earliest glimpses of what an RPG could be in 3D, with wide-open landscapes, colorful characters, and an evolving world, all expressed in that uniquely quirky Mother style. Alas, it was perhaps too ambitious for its time, and after 6 years of development, it was officially canceled in August of 2000. Thankfully, the dream wasn't entirely lost. Mother 3 eventually came out for the GBA in Japan, but part of us still wonders what might have been on the N64. The original Prey was set in a distinct science fiction universe, but the canceled sequel promised to expand the lore considerably. The cinematic trailer showcased a rich, neon-lit cityscape reminiscent of Blade Runner and the opening of Star Wars Episode II. The focus on U.S. Marshal Killian Samuels working as a bounty hunter in an open world promised to be a welcome change of pace from the corridor-heavy original. Just 1 short year later, rumors of its subsequent cancellation were rampant, and it was decommissioned 2 years after that. Open-world bounty hunting on an alien planet is music to our ears, but regrettably, we'll have to terminate this contract. Star Wars games have mostly disappointed since 2008's The Force Unleashed, but E3 2012 introduced the world to 1313. The demo promised a more mature take on the universe, supposedly following a young Boba Fett as he navigated an underground area of Coruscant. The emphasis on fast-paced combat with bounty hunter-specific weaponry would have been a nice change of pace from typical lightsaber duels. When Disney purchased LucasArts and the studio was crippled by layoffs, production halted. Star Wars 1313 had a lot of potential to be the next great Star Wars game, but the Force wasn't strong enough with this one. Very few games have had an impact like World of Warcraft. A true cultural phenomenon, countless lesser imitators have shamelessly taken its ideas for years. Yet despite being more than a decade old, it's never been toppled. Project Titan was meant to be the next MMO champion. Instead of elves and dwarves, Titan was going to take place on a near-future version of Earth where players would battle evil at night while holding down a mundane job during the day. Considering most MMOs employ the same themes again and again, being a sci-fi superhero with a 9-to-5 sounds intriguing. Unfortunately, Titan was canned because it reportedly did not live up to Blizzard's internal standard of quality. At BlizzCon 2014, Chris Metzen said that elements of Titan made their way into Overwatch, the upcoming multiplayer first-person shooter. Hopefully that means the spirit of the ambitious MMO will, in some ways, live on. From announcement to cancellation, the dream of Mega Man Legends 3 lasted only 10 months. After the painfully undervalued series spent a decade in dormancy, Nintendo surprisingly announced that Mega Man 3 Legends would be coming to its freshly debuted 3DS. Something always felt fishy though, as it was actually Mega Man Legends 3 Project that was announced, which included plans for a prototype version you had to pay to play, and a community-focused dev room, which turned out to mostly be about voting for things. Short story short, nothing seemed to gain traction. Capcom went on a crazy Mega Man cleanse, and alas, Mega Man Volnut remains trapped on the moon. Over the course of this list, we've seen games canceled for a multitude of reasons, but perhaps none are as sinister as Nintendo's cancellation of Star Fox 2. Here's a game that was nearly finished, a real sequel to Star Fox with actual 3D movement, somehow looking better than many PlayStation 1 games at the time, yet it was killed merely to make the Nintendo 64 look better by comparison. Nintendo needed a clear distinction between the capability of its two consoles, old and upcoming, and so Star Fox 2 took the bullet. However, and you didn't hear this from us, unlike all the other games on this list, you can totally play this game right now. We just can't have nice things. This erstwhile fever dream showed us just enough to drive us wild, then exited the scene as suddenly and strangely as it entered it. PT was a singular experience, both in gameplay and advertising, showing strange guts not only on screen, but from a company quite possibly going insane. But PT's cruelest joke was the gift of hope. Hope that Silent Hill might return to its former glory at the deft hands of Misters Kojima and Del Toro. Silent Hill may live again, but it will likely continue its path of degradation and be nowhere near what could have been, once again, at the hands of masters. This week, our party of D&D heroes takes on the likes of Bowser and Mother Brain in another unpredictable episode of Tabletop Adventures. And we take you through crucial do's and don'ts from The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt on our second channel, GT Reviews, so you can make the most of your journey through this incredible game. We'll see you next Friday for another GT Countdown.